Dear President Trump, I speak to you today as someone who shares your passion for golf and appreciates its potential as a metaphor for leadership in life. You've often drawn from the wisdom of golfing legends like Sam Snead, and it's understandable. Snead was remarkable not just in skill but in his knack for distilling complexities into simple, memorable lessons. Yet, as you well know, not every lesson leads equally toward wisdom. Consider Snead's famous phrase about accepting an easy putt. When they give you a putt, you say, "Thank you very much." You pick up your ball and walk to the next hole. At first glance, this is logical, even practical. But the subtlety here is important. Snead is advocating a kind of minimal compliance with rules, implying that strict adherence when unnecessary is foolish. What makes the statement resonate negatively isn't the practicality of accepting the gift. It's the hidden assumption about the nature of rules and opponents. Snead's maxim implicitly values a shortcut over fully respecting the integrity of the process or the challenge of excellence. This is the critical ethical pivot. As you well know, golf, like governance, draws much of its greatness precisely from respecting the balance of fairness, dignity, and universal inclusion. Exclusivity or selective adherence to rules eventually erodes trust, destabilizing the very foundations that make achievement meaningful. Let's consider an alternative set of lessons from Jack Nicklaus, a golfer I know you admire deeply. Nicklaus exemplified not just winning, but genuine sportsmanship. By revisiting specific moments in Nicklaus's career, examples you know intimately, we can reconnect to the positive ideal that Snead's logic occasionally obscures. Lessons in sportsmanship, like in leadership, often arrive not as proclamations but through example, moments when someone has the chance to act narrowly in their own interest and chooses something broader, more generous, and in the long view, stronger. In 1969 at the Ryder Cup in Royal Birkdale, Jack Nicklaus faced Tony Jacklin on the final hole of the final match. Jacklin had a short putt to tie. If he missed, the U.S. would win. Before Jacklin could even set up, Nicklaus picked up his marker and conceded the putt. That act wasn't about surrendering a win. It was about recognizing that a victory gained by pressing an opponent into humiliation wasn't a victory worth taking. The teams tied that year, and people still talk about it because it showed something that lasts longer than a trophy integrity. It was a small moment with a big consequence. No rule made Nicklaus do it, but the example it set shaped the ethos of international competition for decades. 8 years later, in what many consider the greatest head-to-head battle in golf history, Nicklaus and Tom Watson went shot for shot at the 1977 Open Championship at Turnberry. Watson edged him by a single stroke. Nicklaus didn't sulk or qualify the loss. He walked up to Watson after the final putt, smiled, and shook his hand with both of his own. That wasn't weakness. That was stature, because he understood something very simple. If you've played your best and someone else still wins, then you were part of something great. There's no shame in that. It elevates the entire occasion. Everyone gets remembered for the right reasons. And then there's 1986, back at Augusta. Nicklaus, 46 years old and past what everyone assumed was his prime, made one of the most astonishing charges in golf history to win the Masters. But what makes that memory endure isn't just the brilliance of the shots. It's how he handled the stage, how he looked at Greg Norman and Sev Ballesteros and Tom Kite and treated them not as young rivals threatening his legacy, but as worthy men adding to the drama. He shared the moment with them. That win didn't close the book on others, it opened it. And you could feel that in how he stood, how he spoke, how he looked at the people around him. And through all of this, the small things mattered too. The moments you don't read about in the papers, Jack calling penalties on himself when no one was watching, choosing the harder path because it was the right one. Not every player did that, not even every great player. But those choices, quiet, unforced, invisible to anyone but him in the game, are the ones that built a legacy people trust. Mr. President, your passion for golf is real and deeply felt. You understand its subtleties better than most. You've shown repeatedly the ability to reflect and evolve your thinking when guided by insights from those you admire. Consider again the lessons of Nicklaus. His legacy is built not on conditional adherence or exclusion, but on expansive generosity and steadfast integrity. These aren't merely moral abstractions. They're practical guidelines that strengthen systems, build trust, and elevate all who follow them. In golf, as in leadership, rules aren't arbitrary limits. They are opportunities to affirm what we collectively value most deeply. Excellence doesn't diminish by being inclusive. It multiplies. You've lived close enough to the game to know that some of the most important victories don't come from taking the putt when it's offered. Sometimes they come from leaving it there and saying, let's finish this the right way.